Hello there, how's it going? Ash here from Jedha Workshop. I just wanted to introduce you to my new 3D file. Max says hello as well. We have to be quiet because they might be listening. Okay, what I'd like to do is basically, I've never done this before. I normally just release files, but I'd really like to talk about this one because I'm super flipping excited about it. It's the most, it is like no doubt the simplest 3D design model I've ever created, yet it is the one that I'm the most excited about just because of what it represents. And if you know, you know. It is basically called Bob Lazar's sports model Reactor. And if you don't know what that is, if you don't know who Bob Lazar is, if you don't know what the sports model is, if you don't know what the Reactor is, I'm not even going to introduce it because you're just not cool. No, I'm kidding, but seriously, where have you been? I will absolutely talk about it. So let's go. So I'd just like to start off with a quick premise that I have always been into the paranormal and UFOs and aliens and just anything like weird and strange and sort of unverified or mysterious. Since I was a little boy, I had this like amazing paranormal book, which was kind of like a library of like lots of different cases. So like lots of famous ghost videos, spontaneous human combustion, Rasputin was in there, and of course the Roswell crash. And since then I've just been absolutely obsessed with it. And also I need to make, sorry, I'm just losing my antenna here. Jesus, God, they almost got through then. They almost got through. I feel it. Anyway, another quick, like, I hope it's within context. My grandma, on my dad's side, was extremely flipping psychic. She would speak to dead people, like proven beyond any measure of doubt. My dad had loads of weird experiences when he was a kid with her and on his own, and so did I. So growing up as a little boy, just naturally I'm like, well, if this is real, then what about all this stuff? Do you know what I mean? So I'm sure you're asking, if you don't already know, and you've been living under a rock for the last 40 years, who is Bob Lazar? Okay, so Bob Lazar is a physicist who specialized in jet propulsion, American, out in the Las Vegas area. He's one of the most controversial whistleblowers in modern history. Before coming forward publicly, he worked on advanced scientific projects, including work associated with the Jet Propulsion Lab, and became known for building a jet-powered Honda. Interestingly, Bob met this man called Edward Teller, who's the father of the hydrogen bomb, right? He went to see a lecture. Bob had he'd put a jet engine in his girlfriend's Honda Civic, right? So you can imagine what that was like. So he was in the newspaper, so he was like semi-famous for it locally. And Edward Teller was sat outside the lecture before this started. Bob got there early. He was reading that exact article. So Bob thought this would be a good way to introduce himself and went, hey, I'm that guy. And they got talking and he watched this lecture. Years later, Bob contacted Edward Teller because he wanted a job. Like, he'd been out of science and he wanted back in science. So he got in touch with Edward Teller. And Edward Teller said, look, I don't have anything right now, but I think I do have a position you'd be interested in. And this was at EG&G, right? But this meeting, when they first met outside the lecture, was on the 28th of June, 1982. My birthday is the 29th of June, 1982. I'm not throwing my ego onto this at all, but one day before I was born was basically when Bob's life kind of changed from normal civilian to like changing forever. That was the point. Do you know what I mean? I think that's wicked, man. So Bob goes out to EG&G, he gets a job, but in the interview they go, we think we have a position that you'd be more qualified for. And he ends up going out to work at Area 51, an area called S4. None of this was public knowledge then at all, to him or anyone. And he went out and, well, let's just get to the next bit. So in 1989, Bob Lazar gave his first ever interview with a chap called George Knapp.
The live interview with the shadowy dentist drew international attention. Portions were broadcast by radio in 6 European countries and in a nationally televised TV special in Japan.
Who was like everyone's favorite granddad ufologist. He's just amazing. I love George and Jeremy. But he initially used the pseudonym Dennis. He did this as a kind of in-joke because Dennis was the name of his supervisor, who was like a Navy general guy, right? And he revealed that he'd worked at the facility called S4, which is a highly classified facility near Area 51. So you've got Groom Lake and Area 51, right? And then you've got mountain range called Papoose Mountain Range. And it's about, I think, 5 to 7 miles below that, you've got Papoose Lake. And this is where S4 facility was alleged to be located by Bob. Okay. And basically, he came out in this interview and he was completely in silhouette. So you couldn't see his face, and under the alias of Dennis. And he claimed that he was working reverse engineering UFOs at that time. I still call them UFOs, flying saucers. That the American government had flying saucers and he was tasked to reverse engineer them and figure out how they worked and if they could be replicated with kind of Earth materials, right? And he claimed that the way the craft operated and which would explain how they move with like various UFO witness sightings is that it somehow managed to bend or control gravity or emit its own gravitational wave or bubble which bends space and time, which had never been heard before or even theorized by anyone. They used to call him up at random times and go, hey, can you come out, meet me tonight at 11 o'clock at the airport? And he'd drive out, he'd get on what they call a Janet flight, fly out to Area 51 and be there for like 1 or 2 days at a time, and then come back and have like maybe 4 or 6 days off. So he never knew when he was working. And they'd not called in a while and he was getting a bit like, what's going on here? This feels a bit odd. And so he started confiding in, because it was super classified and they were treating him a bit weirdly, he started to get paranoid. So he would confide in his friend called Gene Huff, right? Who's just a normal dude, real estate guy, but he was his best friend at this time in the 80s, and confided in him. And as a way to just sort of cover his ass, he started taking a Gene Huff and a man called Lear out to the Nevada test site, because Bob knew the test flight schedules of the UFO because they were flying it out somehow, human operated pilots, and they would do it every Wednesday night because this is when traffic was lowest on the nearest road to the test site, right? So he'd take his friends out and show them as sort of backup, as a sort of dead man's switch. Look, this is real, I'm doing this. If anything happens to me, you guys know that this is going on, and they videoed it. They took a camper van out there. They ended up getting caught, and then obviously Bob was summoned to an office where he was prodded and poked with guns and threatened and all this, and then revealed that his wife at that time was cheating on him because they had his phones tapped at all the staff. They surveilled them, right? And the reason they hadn't been calling him in is because, hey, we need to see if this is like a fling or if it's going to sort itself out, because we need our scientists to be mentally focused. We can't be dealing with like emotional hiccups, right? So that happened. And then as surveillance and intimidation and threats, he was being followed everywhere, and harassment, as all that intensified, Bob chose to reveal his identity publicly, believing that becoming well known was the only way to protect himself, okay? More than 3 decades later, Lazar, sorry, I'm just reading off here because there's a lot of information. More than 3 decades later, Lazar has continued to stand by his account, becoming one of the most recognized figures associated with Area 51 and alleged UFO reverse engineering programs. He is basically, he's not the first whistleblower, but he's basically the godfather of what has now become, nearly 40 years later, this disclosure movement. I'm sure you've seen all the tranche releases by the government and all that of UFOs. It's massive, man. But I've always been into this. So I've been following this story ever since I first discovered Bob in the 80s as a little kid. Like he's the godfather of all of this, of UFO conspiracy, right? So I've always been obsessed with his story, with the research other people have done, with the craft itself and the technology, and sort of what that includes, what that sort of represents to reality, basically. And some key documentaries is, of course, the Project Gravitar S4, The Bob Lazar Story by Luigi Vendittelli, which was released just this year, which is absolutely amazing. Check it out if you haven't. They recreated everything in Blender. 3D models galore, mate. Like the hangar, the craft, just the whole S4 facility, the whole landscape area of Papoose Lake. They recreated Bob, like de-aged him, the characters, based on Bob's memory. And as they were going through and creating this amazing film, Bob was remembering more because he was seeing it visually and going, oh no, that's not quite right. And oh my God, there's a door in this corridor there, right there. So they recreated it perfectly to what he says is 100% accuracy. Not even 99. He says it's 100% exactly. And they recreated the craft exactly because he had different measurements because he was just going from his memory, right? But as they started to logistically composite it and sculpt it in Blender, things didn't add up. So basically that allowed him to get everything even more accurate to scale, right? Another amazing documentary which came way before this S4 one in the 80s was called The Lazar Tape. Excerpts from the Government Bible. Sorry, I always forget, it's such a long title.
Hi, I'm Bob Lazar.
That film was actually made by his friend Gene Huff to sort of help his friend and protect him and sort of show this is how it works. So it's not just Bob talking random science in interviews. They're actually, I think this is the first time they really showed it, other than Bob's sketches and drawings. They did almost like a science lesson to camera go, like with diagrams and 3D models and stuff. So I took those documentaries and Bob's sketches and all the other, like other people have made amazing kind of visuals and stuff, and created this 3D model of the reactor, which is at the center of the ship and powers everything. So basically every little bit of it, every visible component has been interpreted from Lazar, from his own memories, descriptions, sketches, these amazing documentaries by people, surviving footage of stuff, and just like every reference material I could get my hands on to create basically what I think is the most faithful representation of the sports model's reactor. So this is the thing, the engine that powers the whole ship and the gravity wave and the, if it is gravity wave, and to control space and time basically for these UFOs to just move throughout space and time. So Bob described it as being metallic in appearance, not perfectly mirrored finish, but like a dark titanium sort of feel, with basically half a hemisphere, half a basketball, just a bit larger on the top, and this is like a domed lid that you remove, and in there is, I call it the coffee cup, but it's basically a cylinder with a lid on it and a pipe coming down into the base. And if you take the lid off, it has this core piece called element 115, which element 115 still doesn't exist. Scientists have synthesized element 115, but in atomic form, and it lasts like less than a microsecond, so it's not a stable form. Bob claims that this was a stable form of element 115 and that it somehow, they think, manipulates gravity. When I say think, they know that this is what produces the engine, the fuel, but they don't necessarily know if it's controlling gravity, because it had some effects that seem to replicate gravity and others where it doesn't. So for instance, if they held a candle right next to the emitter, which is connected to the reactor, and it just froze, the flame just froze, which shouldn't be possible because you wouldn't see the photons. If it was bending space and time and light, you just wouldn't. And then another one where they created basically like not a mini black hole, but where no photons were visible whatsoever. And basically when Bob first came into contact with this reactor, his not his supervisor, but his colleague, Barry, turned it on and said, right, try and touch the reactor. And Bob went near the dome like this, and it stopped. You know, like when you have two magnets and they repel each other, so you just can't get close enough because they're opposite poles. Said it was like that, but with his hands. making no noise, there's no exhaust, there's no fumes coming off it, nothing. It's creating some form of gravitational barrier where he physically could not push his hand. And also, if you did have two magnets like this with opposite poles and you pushed against one, it would slide across the surface. This didn't, it held its own. So he was like, what is this? This is not human technology at all. So basically, this element 115 emits some form of gravity wave, inverted commas, which has an offshoot, sort of not an off-ramp, through this pipe down into the base of the reactor itself, which is, imagine a hollow circular tube in the base, so it's like a cyclotron.
So back to our power source. Inside the reactor, element 115 is bombarded with a proton, which plugs into the nucleus of the 115 atom and becomes element 116.
This is all fed up and then into the whole structure of the reactor itself, and then within the craft there's a larger pipe that slots down on top of the dome, and this feeds all the energy up into the structure of the craft itself. So imagine like a skeletal structure of archways around the craft, which then produces the gravity wave. It's absolutely genius. I've created that 3D model for 3D printing. I've seen a couple of models out there. I don't want to shit on anyone else's work, but they weren't good enough for me. They weren't accurate enough. They weren't as faithful as I'd like them to be, and I wanted to create my own. So it's quite large. The base is to scale. So the base is around 450 millimeters, 45 centimeters by 45 centimeters square. The basketball is within that. Basically, imagine like a large 80s vintage record player in your living room. It's about that, but a little bit bigger. And that's another reason I created it. It's not just like all this like theorized amazing technology, like alien spacecraft stuff. It looks cool. Like visually, it's an object that I would like in my house, if that makes sense. So I actually have this beautiful silver vintage record player and amp in my bedroom. I love it. I love the color of it, the finish, that kind of brushed steel, chrome, but not mirrored finish, but elements of mirrored on it. It's got this beautiful orange light on it. It's just a big chunk of 80s retro square silver metal, which I just, for some reason, makes me feel good inside. So I haven't printed it yet. I don't know who the first person to print it will be. Hopefully it's me, but I will absolutely share the photos and the videos of that and the build, because I genuinely can't wait. I've not been this excited about a model for years, honestly, with like Star Wars just getting crap and other IPs and the world just being a bit rubbish in the creative content it's producing. You know, it's kind of a weird time for geeks, isn't it? So I wanted to geek it up and go really geeky into stuff that I'm absolutely geeky about. Do you know what I mean? Keep my passion going high. And so there you go. That is my 3D model of Bob Lazar's sports model Reactor. It is out now on my Patreon. And when I say that, please don't be scared. I do not gatekeep anything. I don't charge people to get access to something. Everything I create is always released on in my shop on my website. So this guy will be out on the 1st of September. Basically, I just release everything 1 month early for my Patreons, just as like an extra perk, as an extra reward. So you can buy this on the 1st of September, or if you want it now, you can join my Patreon. For any of the tiers can have access to this. So like from £4 a month up to £35 a month. Depends how you work, what you want, but it's all support. So I'm not going to lie about that at all. Patreon is 100% support for me as a person and my workshop to help me produce models. I'm not rich. I'm not one of these massive 3D file creators that just, you know, those things have turned into a subscription base that's like Netflix now. And the bigger creators can afford to, you know, to pay hundreds of modelers and produce like 40 new models a month. I'm not like that at all. I don't want to be. I never will be. I tend to work on 1 or 2, well, I'm working on 7 models at the moment, but I generally am only able to release 1 or 2, 3 max models per month. Depends just what the complexity of them or the simplicity of them. This one, by the way, we've been working on a helmet all month, and it was complex, and I was working on it with someone, and they were being a bit like annoying, so it was taking longer, and I'm like, shit, I've got to release something this month, and this is not going to be finished in time. So I literally got in touch with my modeler, drew up the instructions, all of the reference material, which I've been gathering for months, and went, do you reckon you can do this before the end of the month? Boom. Next day I had a first draft, I tweaked it, came back, it was finished, got the renders done by our amazing texture render artist Ewan in Scotland. He did those in a day. You just sent one draft back, goes, it's like this. I'm like, just tweak that. And he went, boom, done, finished. So within less than 4 days, we'd produced this model and the renders and released it like spectacularly to the spec of what I wanted. So yeah, I just wanted to introduce it. And if you do want to purchase it from my shop, it'll be about 20 quid, I think, because no one else has one that's accurate. So I'm going to charge its worth. Do you know what I mean? So it'll be out on the 1st of September. If you want it now, you are very welcome to join my Patreon. Under any tier, you can have access to this. Obviously, you don't have to join Patreon. It's completely up to you. If you do, thank you so much, because the support this day, in this day and age, is just like immeasurable. You know what I mean? I'm just so flipping grateful for anyone who supports me in this crazy climate and this saturated 3D printing world that started off awesome and now is just like, I can't see the direction of it. So I just wanted to create something simple, cool, fun and unique, which I am quite obsessed about. So that's patreon.com/Jedha Workshop. My website is jedhaworkshop.co.uk. All the details in the description below, all that, yada, yada, yada. Just, yeah, thanks so much for watching. I know this is a bit of a different video. Let me know if you like it. If you like these like crazy little stories and introductions of models and why I've created them, rather than just a post on Instagram, which you might see or you might not. Do you know what I mean? I want to create more engaging, I hate the word content, but it is, isn't it? Engaging just videos, images, photos, descriptions and models. So yeah, let me know if you liked it. If you did, please do press the like, because I always forget to like videos that I like, and it obviously massively helps that disgusting thing we call an algorithm. It helps my channel grow. Please do subscribe if you haven't, and hit the bell and all that boring thing that everyone says. You know what it is. You know how things work. I don't have any membership options on YouTube at the moment because I'm not that kind of creator. I don't do behind the scenes videos, and I don't like the celebrity thing. I don't want to be famous. I'm just a geek who creates stuff, and I didn't really want to be a social media person. I still don't, but I've switched my brain where I am just doing it without the pressure of any of that. And whatever I produce is whatever I produce. If you like it, cool. If you don't, cool. I don't give a shit. Do you know what I mean? I'm just doing what I like and seeing how it goes and stuff. You know what I mean? All right. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Ash from Jedha Workshop. Hit me up on any of the socials and all that. Do you like this model? Comment down below. Do you think it's a faithful representation? What would you like to see next? Would you like to see some more Bob Lazar or UFO or alien, mysterious, paranormal kind of stuff, models? If you do, let me know, because I'm completely up for working on that, either on my own or with you. Because, oh God, I forgot. God. So I'm sorry if this video is a bit long and like flying all over the place, but we've always offered this, a 3D design service, but I've restructured it and re-put it onto my website, because I've always been doing it, but people have just emailed me. Now I just wanted to say, hey, this is a legitimate service that we provide. We take your idea, whether it's just in your head, a sketch or an AI concept model, we turn that into 3D. We work with you every single step of the way. So each draft I will receive from my modeler, I'll look at it, assess it, draw up amends, send those to you on the new draft and see if you agree with them, if you spot anything else. And we work together in stages like that until we've got a fully fledged, finished 3D print model that was just in your head, mate. And we do shared ownership and full ownership options. Obviously, I'm a 3D print shop myself, so I always, if I like it and it suits my kind of niche, I'll always offer a shared ownership option. Or if equally, I fully respect, I have a lot of people who go, can you make me this cosplay, but I don't want anyone else to have it, I just want it to be mine. And I'm like, yeah, of course, no problem. and we just charge a small fee on top of that for the usage rights, basically. So yeah, get in touch. It's a fun process. My Modeler D is absolutely flipping amazing. I think I'm okay at my job too. I do a lot of research and draw up all the design slides for him and you and the amends, and basically art direct and oversee the whole project to take all that legwork out of you, the customer, because I don't know if you've ever dealt with the 3D modeler. They're so complex engineer brain that they need clear instructions, I've found, from working with like lots of different 3D modelers. Anyway, yeah, I think we make a pretty damn good team, me and D. He's produced, I think, 95% of my models over the last 5-6 years, however long we've been open, I don't know. Anyway, I'll stop rambling. Thank you so much for watching. Namaste. Oh, they're listening. This is the way. Peace. Oh my god, come on, there's a gravitational wave. I got it. It's like, yeah, Max.
Doesn't sound so bad to me.